Hello, it's Karolina Glady here, a transformation coach and group facilitator. And I'm talking with Kate Adie, also a leadership coach, and she can tell a few more words about herself in a moment. And this is a second episode of our shorter Under the Skin explorations, when we talk about different topics related to being a parent. And we explore parenting through the lenses of the inside out understanding. So, Kate, would you like to say a few more words about
Yeah.
yourself? And then we can just jump to a topic of today, which is something I'm sure a lot of us can relate to, and it is worry.
Yeah, great topic. So yes, hi everyone. I'm Kate Adie, a leadership and transformation coach. So I work with a lot of mainly women, professional women, in both corporate life and also those who sort of run their own businesses, helping them to understand how the mind works, and by doing that, understand their true selves, and able to deal with life's challenges and work's challenges much more peacefully and calmly, and courageously. So I think today is going to be about 10-15 minutes, isn't it? Yeah, great.
So what do you think, Kate? What do you think, what happens when we worry? And do you have any solutions to it?
Worry. I think I've got frown marks. Look, the worry marks.
Okay.
I wish I had a solution for those.
Yeah.
Worry. Worry is, I think everyone worries. Everyone worries. I worry. Even if I was to say I didn't worry, there could be, I spend definitely some part of every day worrying about something. And I think if I didn't know what my worry was, so worry is a feeling, and in my body I feel that worry. Maybe call it anxiousness. And because I know it's in my body, it's there, and that feeling in the moment is giving me a signal. And I love this from Jamie Smart. It gives me a signal because he talks about using your feelings to let you know what glasses you're wearing, that you're then looking out on life through. So I've got my worry feeling in my stomach. I then know I've got my worrying glasses on. So everything I'm looking at is through the worrying glasses. So I'm going to see everything just in that way. So it might be something that the kids have done at school, and then I go into that and I have that feeling and see it that way, and therefore behave in a way that is as a consequence of that worry. So you send a worrying email, or you interact with the teacher in a worried way, or you talk to your child in a protective way. But I think because I know that's how we work, is that we're living in the feeling of the thought, the principle of thought that comes into form in the moment, that it frees me up just to be out of it, not to be in it. So I don't get caught up in that worry. It falls away, it disappears, and I'll allow a space for a new energy of thought to come through, and a new feeling. And that might not necessarily transfer into happiness immediately, but that's how we work. So the solution is the understanding. And I think that's the powerful thing, and very different to what we're used to. I think when we hear solution, the how-to, people crave for, and I used to crave for. So give me the handbook, give me the recipe, and I'll go and do it. Whereas this is a very different. It's not necessarily a go and do. It's be curious about what's really going on and understand it. See it for yourself, and it transforms how you deal with worry or any other feelings. What about you?
Comes to mind that I can imagine that someone listening to it who's not familiar with the inside out understanding might have. And it's okay, I understand that the feeling that you describe, the feeling in your stomach, it comes from thought, from thinking, word thoughts. But it doesn't solve my problem. I still have this real life problem. Do you have any thoughts about it?
Any thoughts? Any thoughts?
Yeah.
Well, what I is thinking about everything. I think it's not what we think.
Mm-hmm.
That we think. Everything. We even smell. We smell a rose. We have a thought about that smell.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see it because it's invisible. Yes. So the real life example is there. The real life challenge is there. My experience of it, though, varies depending on whether I see it as an experience coming from my thought rather than from the situation.
Mm.
So if I see my feeling, my worried feeling coming from the situation, I can get very caught up in that and reactive and try and solve the situation, but not knowing that in fact the feeling is coming from inside. And then it naturally goes away. But if I see it as coming from the outside in, I'm going to look for outside in answers of trying to solve it. Look outside, and then sometimes you actually end up perpetuating it and being more worried because you just haven't got to the source of it. And I think this is why the inside out understanding of the human experience is so amazing. It's how we all operate, whether you're aware of it or not, or even interested in it. It's there, it's working, day in, day out. So the answer is within all of us to deal with our life challenges differently. It's not saying that hasn't happened. I'm not saying that. So that event has happened, but your experience of the event will vary depending on whether you can see where the feeling is coming from. If you can see where the feeling is coming from, you're much more free to then look at the event in a new way, a new perspective, and a new solution, a different way of dealing with that and behaving towards it comes about.
Yeah.
What is
It's making sense, really. And I think that sometimes it's quite fun, actually, that sometimes we worry because we think that it will help us somehow, that we are responsible people. So of course we worry about this issue. It means that we care, and we can even think of someone who doesn't worry, that maybe they don't care. Maybe, they are taking it too lightly. And I think there is really a misunderstanding in it, that we think that the solution or our response to the situation will come from us thinking and figuring out. And sometimes we can overlook our capacity for a deeper wisdom, to respond from a quiet mind, not from the worried, busy mind, but from a quieter place. And we have amazing capacity when we show up quietly. And I'm so glad that the noise outside the window just stopped when I started talking about quietness. It is amazing that it's much easier also on a practical level to deal with challenges when our mind is quieter. And if you don't mind,
I was just going to say, when the mind is quieter, now what that brings up for me is maybe something that listeners might be asking themselves is, well, so what do I have to do in order to get a quiet mind? So I need to have a quiet mind in order to be able to access and listen and hear the wisdom, the inner wisdom. How do I get a quiet mind?
I think that we have built in us the quietening, and it comes from us when we stop investing so much in the story. When you said that understanding made the whole difference to you, when you understood that the feeling is not coming from out there, but from the thinking. I love the example that you use, that the worried feeling, it lets you know that the glasses through which you are looking at the situation, at the world, are just not very clear in that moment. I think having a glimpse of it it can just help us stop. Actually, an example comes to mind. It was a few years ago, and it was a young teacher. She was attending one of my seminars, and we talked about worry, because she tends to worry about her job, especially, and she could see somehow that she worried too much. And she told me that, oh yes, sometimes there are situations when I don't really need to worry, but I worry. And I asked her, so actually, are you saying that there are situations when you need to worry? And then she got very quiet for a moment, because she had an insight. And she said, no, actually not. Because she could glimpse that the worry is not actually helping. And I think when something is really making sense to us on a deep level, we don't go in the old way anymore, in the old direction, but we gain access to experimenting with just new ways of being. That's what it looks like to me. So I don't think that we need to work hard on quietening our mind. We don't need to worry about a quiet mind, I guess. That's the understanding that allows the quietening to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And actually, your client maybe just think about how sometimes, I hear worry used a lot with clients. Oh, I worry about this, and I'm a bit of a worry. I worry a lot, and almost like they see themselves as a worrier. As someone who just worries. I am someone who just worries. Rather, so if you attach that meaning to who you are, oh, gosh, it must feel very heavy.
Yeah.
But what is it that's actually creating that? It's thought. It's just it's not who you are, and you're not your thinking, because the thinking disappears. And I think sometimes we get caught up in, there's the energy of thought, which is what we're talking about in terms of who we are and how it comes through us and we live in that feeling of our thinking, but it's not the everyday thinking. If you like, with the personal thinking, the chitter chatter that goes on, but we're actually pointing to something that is universal in how we work and how we function. That's the principle of thought, the energy of thought that is, coming through us and operating in a way that is then creating the feeling, moment to moment. And it's different than looking at the content of our thinking. I think, well, I need to actually look at that. And you might do that in CBT or in an NLP, and just look at the content of what you're thinking and trying to reframe it or change it. This is not. It's looking at that we think, and how that creates our moment to moment experience. So we're not worriers. You're not a worrier, or you're not an anxious person. It's just that you're having some anxious, worrying thinking going on in that moment that is creating that feeling for you in that moment. And as you're with your client, it's not there the whole time.
No.
And I think without that thinking, do you feel worried without that worrying thinking?
No, it's not possible. Yeah,
it's not possible
without more thinking.
It's just not possible, is it?
Yeah.
It's just not possible. And I think that's what becomes clearer and clearer, that it isn't possible. And I think it's lovely to just do experiments and just sort of test it out on yourself. If I stop my worrying thinking, what happens?
Yes, great. Great invitation to the experiment. I like that.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you would like to add, Kate?
Well, I suppose one last thing that just popped into my mind is when we have children that worry.
Okay.
So, just from a, my children always, if they're worried about what someone said to them. So I'd love to hear from you, how you deal with your children when they're in an anxious state or in a worried state? Yeah.
Oh, my children are quite young, and I don't see them worrying so much, at least yet, It's maybe more I see it in myself. Sometimes I worry about them more than they do worry. But yes, there was a situation. Let's say my older daughter, Aliki, she was worried and anxious and fearful about going to a dentist, and, and she made a huge drama at the dentist. And she didn't let her, touch anything. So we tried to, kind of solve it somehow, talk some sense into her and so on, and bribe her with toys and things. But it didn't really work. But when we just decided to step back a little bit, and not to make a big deal about it, somehow she calmed down, and the next time she was able to go. When we stopped worrying, I think it helped her stop worrying. And I think children very much sense if they are worried and you start worrying, it's like confirmation for them. Oh yes, this is serious, this is a big deal, this must be really scary and bad. So it kind of builds up on it and makes it even bigger. I think that they can also sense our peace and calmness, and I think it helps the worry settle. What about your boys? Do they worry?
Well, I just think what you were just saying there in terms of stop thinking about it and then helping them to point. So sometimes when I sort of help them to see if there's a kind of a thought bubble or a grey cloud that's the worry cloud. If that cloud moves on, do they still feel worried? And they're like, no. I mean, they don't worry. They're not great worriers, but it has happened, and I have had that conversation. Now, I don't mind. I'm not there to fix them. I'm just there to highlight that the worry, you won't spend the next 100 years out, worrying every single minute of the day, because it doesn't work like that. So just helping them to see that the worry cloud disappears like clouds do. And, how do you notice? How do you feel now? Oh, feel okay. Because we are all okay the whole time, apart from the worry cloud coming in.
Yeah.
And as you say, that sort of, clouding our natural way of our default feeling, which is just peace and calm and happiness. It's a temporary feeling, which might feel as though it's there to stay because that's the way it looks, but it's not there to stay.
Yeah.
That's what I would pass on. Yeah.
Great metaphor, really. Very helpful. I really like it.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It's been good fun.
It's been fun, yes. I don't know if the listeners can hear it, but there is some noise, outside of my window. Someone is using a saw, I think. And as we are talking, sometimes a little worry comes to my mind, that it worries me a bit, but I don't make a big deal about it. And it's the same. The worry passes, and the noise will pass. It's just, I don't need to do anything about it. I don't need to start yelling at the neighbor. I think a little bit the same with the worry clouds. They will just pass eventually, and then we have silence and blue sky again.
That's right. That's a really good real life example happening now, isn't it? But otherwise you wouldn't be able to converse in the way that you are if you were trapped in the worrying thoughts about noise of the whatever's going on outside. You'd be distracted by it. So we'll say bye for now, and
feel free to comment on Facebook, on YouTube, or get in touch with us via email. We would love to hear from you about worry or any insights that occurred to you, or questions also. Let's stay in conversation.
Okay. Bye-bye.